The Republic of Turkey is a country rich in ancient history and culture dating back to its powerful heritage in the age of the Ottoman Empire. Known as one of the largest empires of all time, at its peak power it was believed to have extended to Yugoslavia, Greece, Bulgaria, Romania, Syria, Iraq, and more, making it a culturally rich era that is still observed today in the region. However, due to many wars as well as loss and gain of power through the centuries, the empire in 1923 collapsed into what is now known as the Republic of Turkey. Home to nearly 80 million people, in 1924 Turkey became a secular country, which means that there is no state religion, allowing freedom of choice. It's currently estimated up to 98% of people are Muslim due to the heritage of Islamic ties from the Ottoman reign, with a smaller population of both Christians and Jewish followers as well. Istanbul, a major city in Turkey, is renowned for their beautiful mosques, where 5 times a day the Muslim community gathers to pray and worship Allah. The Islamic religion is based upon the following of Allah, the creator of all creatures, mankind included, and the word of prophecy Muhammad, the creator of Islam, with the belief system that people are created equally, that there is no superiority, and the requirement of respect to mankind regardless of whom they are. The Turkish community celebrates 2 important religious festivals every year, the Ramadan festival and the Festival of Sacrifice. Both are celebrated still today. Ramadan is a time for visiting relatives and paying respect to older generations, accompanied by a large variety of cultural sweets and desserts. The Festival of Sacrifice is a 4-day festival that is based upon the sacrifice of an animal in a spiritual ritual, where the family then comes together to consume the meat and various traditional dishes. These religious and cultural factors are celebrated within the Turkish community, as well as internationally in countries of migration such as Australia. It is estimated that around 10,000 Turkish citizens settled in Australia, migrating to primarily Melbourne and Sydney. Australia's relationship with the Turkish community was solidified by the establishment of bilateral relations, which saw the introduction of allowing Turkish families permanent migration to Australia. However, throughout 2013 and 15, high immigration numbers were recorded of the Turkish community's movement, with 86% of all immigrants migrating to Europe, more so specifically Germany, 5% to North America, 3% to surrounding Arab countries, and less than 5% migrating to Australia. This constant influx of immigration and immigration, internally and externally, of the Turkish community highlights the cultural diversity the community has influenced on a global scale.
Food choice is a highly complicated behaviour, with vastly varying factors that influence certain food consumptions across the world. There are many factors including social, religious, food laws and beliefs, cultural, traditions, environmental, geographical, seasonal and economical factors that shape dietary patterns. In Turkey, these factors simultaneously influence the specific consumptions of food for the people living there. As many food choices are driven by social factors and abiding to social norms of the country, in Turkey, a poll done by Anna Lind on Intercultural Trends of 2012 found 72% of Turkish participants regarding family solidarity as being the most important value when raising a family, and 39% regarded religious beliefs as the second most important. These social factors also include eating specific foods because it's what's provided at social gatherings and because it makes these gatherings more comfortable, hence influencing what is eaten. Turkey is the only country in the world that has no state religion, and 98% of the population are Muslims. Islam sets prescribed dietary guidelines just like many other religious groups that influence what the Turkish population can consume. Their rules serve to create a unique identity whilst joining the followers as a cohesive group. The Islamic diet distinguishes between halal, foods and drinks that are allowed, and haram, those that are prohibited. The Quran is a sacred book Islam believed to be the book of God as dictated to Muhammad and outlines both halal and haram. Halal consists of foods that are pure, clean and nourishing, which is everything that hasn't been specified in haram. Haram includes foods such as dead meats that were slaughtered by inappropriate means, blood, the flesh of swine, intoxicating drinks including everything that may contain alcohol, even soy sauce, and the meat of an animal that has been sacrificed, died for electrocution, strangulation, or blunt force. These religious beliefs also dictate the food law and food beliefs within the majority of Turkey, as they run parallel to their religious beliefs of halal and haram and what can be consumed. Whilst Turkey is a mainly Muslim-dominant country, their culture is so rich and multifaceted, it simply doesn't fit into just one definition. Arguably, the most important cultural tradition within Turkey is marriage, and this event includes cuisine at every stage. There are 3 stages leading up to marriage: the agreement, the engagement, and the wedding. The agreement includes obtaining a good relationship between the families, and for this reason many sweets such as sweetened fruit drinks are served. The engagement commonly includes an engagement dinner with food such as lamb, stuffed chicken, rice pilaf, and bulgur pilaf with chickpeas served. On the night before the wedding, known as the henna night, food plays a highly important role and includes pilaf, noodle soup, and chickpeas. On the wedding day, most foods are prepared, and the most important is kasek, which is a type of ceremonial meat or chicken with a wheat or barley stew. Turkey's geographical location also largely influences the food consumed, with the Mediterranean Sea to the south and Europe and Asia also on the border. There are many competing influences. This particular positioning increases the amount of fish consumed, specifically the Black Sea anchovy, and sea aspects of European and Asian influence, also including spices, vegetables, and nuts, greatly influence Turkey's main consumption. Alongside this, there are many environmental factors that also influence the types of food consumed. As a large majority of the land structure consists of steep mountains along the coastline, the vegetable production has been limited, but the cool temperatures allow for many to flourish. There are over 50 different types of vegetables grown and many wild herbs, both used and consumed within many different types of cooking. The temperate marine climate also creates a multi-annual average rainfall of 1,268.1 mm during all seasons, allowing fruits and vegetables to flourish. Similarly, the food produce greatly depends on the seasonal factors as well. The average temperature in Turkey is around 13 to 14 degrees Celsius, and hence many foods thrive in growth. The production of tomatoes, peppers, eggplants, melon and watermelon are constrained, whilst many green vegetables flourish due to the seasonal factors. Another largely influencing factor is the economical position of Turkey. Turkey is the 63rd richest country in the world, so although they are not at the top, they are definitely not a third world country, hence influencing the food consumed. As most civilians prefer to purchase their foods at local markets, they are relatively affordable, and this increases the amount of fresh produce bought and consumed within their diets, hence the economical circumstances.
Turkish cuisine is categorised as one of the world's richest and most wholesome cuisines. According to SBS Food, the diversity of the Turkish cuisine has been borrowed, adapted and perfected from many other cuisines in surrounding countries. This cuisine is usually rich in spices such as cumin, pepper, mint, oregano and paprika to enhance the flavour of every meal. The diet is similar to that of many other Mediterranean countries and is abundant in vegetables, herbs, breads and meats such as lamb, chicken and beef. The general diet is rich in protein and carbohydrates, therefore being served in smaller portions and mostly consisting of 3 main meals a day rather than snacking. Travelling blogger Chris Beauchamp writes of a typical week in Turkey and the breakfast and lunch cuisine he experienced in Istanbul whilst on his travels in 2010. In his investigation, he found that the meals were wholesome, however the portions small due to the high nutritional value in each meal. Typical breakfast meals included fresh fruit and vegetables such as oranges, grapefruit, cucumber and tomatoes, accompanied by hard-boiled eggs, goat's cheese and baskets of bread with spreads. Meat is usually quite rare in Turkish breakfasts, however Beauchamp states that the meat that is used in these meals can be anything from bologna to boar's tongue. Lunch typically will involve a dish of Turkish bread or doner kebabs with grilled meats such as lamb, beef or chicken, complemented with a range of salad fillers. Other hearty meals such as pied, the Turkish equivalent of pizza, in which the slices are a large boat-shaped flatbread with inside toppings which are usually an assortment of cheeses and meats. According to Gertz, dinner meals are again usually spiced and fused dishes, most commonly served with meats. Kofta is a commonly served dish that relates to that of an Australian meatball, made out of any chosen meat, breadcrumbs, onion and spices, and served with chilies and rice and or bread. Karen Yarrick is also a popular meal, which is an eggplant base with minced meat and garlic and tomato filling. This cuisine, although more wholesome in protein and carbohydrates than that of an Australian cuisine, is very much accessible with the high majority of ingredients available in supermarkets. The Turkish doner kebab is popular amongst many Australian fast food takeaway stores, and the multiculturalism of the nation means that there has been a significant increase in restaurants, including that of Turkish ones.
The Australian food culture is incredibly diverse as our nation is so multicultural, dating back to colonisation, and has since evolved due to large migration over the decades. In today's society, the Australian diet primarily consists of a meat and 3-veg dish, as well as large consumptions of alcohol such as beer. The Australian Guide to Healthy Eating consists of a pie diagram split into 5 food groups, which include grains and cereals, vegetables, lean meats and poultry, dairy foods and fruits. In 2016, the CSIRO conducted a survey, the Total Wellbeing Diet, which saw staggering results that only 24% of women and 15% of men met the ideal fruit and vegetable guidelines. It has also been observed that the consumption of junk foods such as processed meats and high carbs and sugar foods is on the increase, whilst a typical homemade meal that meets the recommended nutritional value is on the decrease. The Australian guidelines clearly identify that Australians are lacking a variety of staple dietary requirements such as vegetables, fruits, grains, reduced fat milks, yogurts, lean meats and poultry. The Turkish community is renowned for their love and appreciation of food, with recipes passed down through generations. Their cooking reflects rich ties with their culture. The Mediterranean diet is a highly regarded lifestyle due to the strong social and eating connections, as well as the nutritional value it offers. The Turkish food guide is symbolized as a full-leaf clover. It is believed it was designed visually this way, as the clovers are heart-shaped, representing love and happiness. The 4 food groups consist of milk and dairy, meat, eggs and fish, vegetables and fruit, as well as breads and cereals. Considering the Turkish health guidelines, when compared with the Australian dietary recommendations, a lot of similarities can be both visually noted. When comparing the 2 dietary guidelines, it is clear their style of cuisine provides the required vegetable consumption with smaller amounts of meats and reasonable intake of grains and other various cereals. However, whilst an ideal Australian diet recommends a large variety of what Turkish cuisines have to offer, there is a limited recommendation on oils and the consumption of dairy products, such as yogurt, which both play a vital role in the Mediterranean diet. Since Turkish urbanization and industrialization, it has been observed that the Western culture is starting to impact the dietary lifestyle in Turkey. This includes the larger consumption of processed meats, increased intake of high-carb foods, and high sugary foods. Overall, the Turkish diet proves to be a healthy lifestyle that meets the Australian health guidelines and should be further encouraged in today's society for its nutritional and healthy value.